to tackle the Palestinian cause, the catastrophic situation which is taking place in Gaza, efforts exerted, whether from regional powers or international powers, to put an end to the bloodshed. All this and more is going to be on top of the agenda of talks in the conference. To discuss more details, we are very much delighted to have with us via phone His Excellency Ambassador Ayman Musharaffa, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Thank you very much for being with us, Ambassador Musharaffa, and a very good morning.
Good morning to you and to the audience.
Sir, Jordan, Egypt, and UN jointly organized an international conference on Gaza on 11th of June. And yesterday, we all heard about the statement which were released by the mediators, the United States, Egypt, and Qatar, to urge the Israeli side and the Hamas side, both together. I don't know if I can call them warring parties, because it's a barbaric genocide war by Israel in the first place, to accept, or to at least give us a new hope for accepting the Joe Biden proposed plan. How do you see the timing of both together? Hello?
The Egyptian Foreign Ministry yesterday issued a tripartite statement with the United States and Qatar to urge Israel and Hamas to accept the Biden plan, which I think, in my own opinion, it's a good step towards finding a ceasefire, and which will result definitely in finding a way to send humanitarian aid to the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Concerning the summit, of course, comes after 8 months of continuous destructive war, which resulted up till now to 37,000 victims and nearly 100,000 casualties. Most 80% of them are women and children, and the destruction of the Gaza infrastructure. 12% of homes have been destroyed. 37 hospitals have been wiped out of the existence. A shortage, not a shortage in electricity, the destruction of the electric grid and the water aquifer system have been affected too. So I could say, and according to the statistics, 90% of the Gaza population, which are 2.3 million, are affected, and 30% are on the verge of famine.
Sir, if you permit me to interrupt here, I'd like to mention the what was said as reactions yesterday. As you mentioned, the statement which was released by the Egyptian Foreign Ministry yesterday. Benjamin Netanyahu said it that clear, that no ceasefire in Gaza without destroying Hamas, or this is what he claimed. Hamas said that they positively look at the proposed ceasefire plan by Biden. At a time that you are going to see that there are demonstrations in the whole world and there are international reactions. There are Chile, for example, today with President Gabriel Boric saying that they are with the file or the case which was raised by South Africa in the International Criminal Court, stuff like that. Do you think that these things together are very much contradictory, or they are going to end with the sound of reason and with taking into consideration that enough bloodshed?
It's a traditional Netanyahu tactic, and I think these statements are non-starter. How you are accepting the principle of the Biden initiative and accepting initially ceasefire and stating that we will not accept this agreement or implement the ceasefire without the destruction of the Hamas administrative capability and military capability. That's pure Netanyahu tactics, giving a nod, and after that trying to find details which will destroy the whole negotiation process. Like the saying, always the devil lie into the details. That's typical Netanyahu, and I think this plan would not yield unless the United States have exert severe pressure on Israel. And I think if Netanyahu will not accept this initiative and try to evade, it will be a fiasco for the American diplomacy and a defeat for the president's initiative itself. But really, there are many contradictory signs. For instance, the Congress has sent an official invitation to Netanyahu to address the Congress. I mean, it's a price that, in my own opinion, Netanyahu doesn't deserve. There is no way that a person who is accused from the top, the ICG and the top UN justice for crimes and severe crimes go to address the top legislative body in the state. I mean, the whole situation is ambiguous, and we will see the next hour maybe something will unfold.
Yeah. But sir, also, when it comes to, for example, the statements which were released by two of the Israeli ministers inside Netanyahu government today, that if he agreed on the plan proposed by American President Joe Biden, they are going to quit. And on the other hand, you would find the demonstrations of the families of the hostages inside Tel Aviv. And many of them are saying or accusing, to be accurate, the Israeli government of not being ready to accept any proposal or any peace deal. How do you see this? Is it a little bit contradictory, or this is something which can form another pressure on Netanyahu?
It is something typical from the Israeli far right. Mr. Smotrich and Ben Gvir represent religious Orthodox part in the coalition, and they have threatened several times that if any deal will get through without destroying Hamas, they will quit from the coalition. But on the other hand, there is a mounting pressure from the Israeli streets and the family of the hostages to ask Netanyahu to have the release of the hostage as a priority. So Netanyahu is really in a very bad position between the pressure of the far right to quit, and which will result the collapse of his government, and the continuous pressure from the Israeli opposition, from Mr. Yair Lapid and other leftist party, and the public opinion itself to go ahead and have the release of the priority on the release of the hostage on his top priority agenda.
Release of the hostages, and we should all the time, when we speak about releasing hostages, about releasing the Palestinian detainees who are behind bars for years right now. But sir, let me take you to another point, if you permit me, and regarding the conference which we are talking about, which is going to take place in 9 days from now in the Dead Sea Resort in Jordan. I think now it's very clear for the international community in general, for peoples all over the world, in all continents, that this is the real image of Israel. And the Israeli genocide war, until the moment, is unjustified. After 36,000 Palestinian martyrs, mostly women, children and minors, and the WHO, the UN, UNRWA, I mean, all the international organizations are warning against famine, against all those injured who are going to unfortunately lose their lives with the lack of fuel and of the basics of medical aid, all this stuff. How do you see this as one of the things or one of the elements which should be used or should make the maximum benefit of, let me put it this way, in the coming conference, to more and more clarify and show the real image of Israel in front of the whole world?
first of all, I want to shed the light on history. Always Egypt and Jordan, we have the historical responsibility about the Palestinian land and the Palestinian cause in the West Bank and Gaza since the war of 1967. And from the beginning of October, Egypt made this peace conference in the new administrative capital, and Jordan had several meetings, and we had many summits between President Sisi and the King Abdullah of Jordan, and between the two Egyptian top diplomats to try to solve the crisis, because we were really, and we still worried, that there are some plan of forced movement of the Palestinians and to solve the Palestinian problem on the expense of Egypt and Jordan. So we are really concerned about the plight of the Palestinians and the ongoing humanitarian crisis, which, as you said, resulted many casualties, which will it amount 2% of the Gaza population have been eliminated, and 95% are affected and not having the proper nutrition, and 30% are on the verge of famine in the north of Gaza and the center of Gaza. So I think this conference will shed the light of the suffering of the Palestinian people and try to urge the international community to put much pressure on Israel to open all the crossings, not only the Rafah crossing.
Or Karam Abu Said.
Gaza have 6 different crossing points, which should be open to send aid and to make an aid corridor or a lifeline corridor to the Palestinians.
But sir, also, it's not only, of course, I do agree with every word you said, but it's not only about, I mean, of course, opening the crossings is very important. But Egypt and Jordan, in addition to the United Arab Emirates, coordinated together with airdropping tons of humanitarian aid into Gaza Strip to try to find a solution. I mean, whatever the Israeli side is doing, we are trying to find a solution, not to put pressure on the Israeli side, so they are continuing with what they are doing.
Well, I do see that the airdrop or the sea drop, it's a very good initiative to alleviate the suffering of the Palestinians, but it's a drop in the sea. I mean, the Gaza Strip before the war, through the Rafah border crossing, more than 800 to 900 trucks were passing the Rafah crossing daily with fuel, with medication, with all sorts of essential material. The airdrop was could be never a solution, or even the American temporary think that they are going to set it in front of Gaza, which it collapsed 3 days ago. The only way is to find a permanent ceasefire, a sustainable way, and a permanent corridor for humanitarian aid.
Yeah.
And now the ceasefire and the protection of the humanitarian workers to perform their duty, this will not succeed. So this summit, I mean, it's very important point and a milestone to give a final signal to the international community that the humanitarian crisis is worsening, and Gaza is on the verge of famine, and which could be the worst famine in human history.
Amen to that. And sir, simply we have not counted until the moment those missing under the rubble, under the debris. And those who returned back to Jabalia, for example, their Jabalia refugee camp, they were shocked with the full destruction of all what they had since 1948. But sir, you mentioned two very important elements or points when you were answering my questions. First, you spoke about the historical role played by Jordan and Egypt in specific regarding the Palestinian cause, and the full refusal of liquidating the Palestinian cause by accepting the displacement of the Palestinian people outside their territories. There are all the time very intensive consultations between Sameh Shukri, our top diplomat, and Ayman Safadi, the Jordanian top diplomat. And yesterday, for example, there was another phone call, one of the tens of phone calls between our top diplomat and Blinken, the American Secretary of State. How do you see the importance of those consultations together and to all the time try to find a solution on all levels, whether it's on the political leadership level or the top diplomats level?
As you said, we had many summits between the President Sisi and the King of Jordan, and on the level of the Egyptian-Jordanian Joint Committee in a statement, and on the daily calls sometimes between Minister Shukri and Ayman al-Safadi, because as I said, historically, the Palestinian cause is, on the top of the agenda of both nations. And we are the two top nations affected by the ongoing crisis, economically and socially, and this ongoing crisis is threatening the fabric of the national security of both countries. Jordan has a border of 180 kilometers with the West Bank, and we do have a large border with Gaza. It's not big like Jordan, but still, the ongoing crisis is affecting the peace and security in north of Sinai and the whole Sinai Peninsula. So putting end to this humanitarian crisis and to this strategic, I could say, a challenge, it is a prime importance for both countries.
Sir, one final question regarding the second point, which really attracted my attention when you were speaking about what should be done in the conference, which is history. Let's remind the world of the history of the Israeli massacres. Unfortunately, I think the world forgot all about Qana, Sabra, Shatila, Deir Yassin, you name it, Al-Khalil, I don't want to say Hebron, but anyways, simply all these massacres just went without any kind of punishment. They went and they ended like that, and simply each Israeli prime minister has his own massacre written after his name. Do you think it's time now to remind the world with all these massacres and to add what's going on the ground to these massacres, once again to tell the world what is the policy of Israel or the policies of Israel against the Palestinian people?
You know, in every massacre perpetrated in Lebanon or in Syria or elsewhere, the Israeli were the common denominator or the inciter against this massacre. For instance, in Sabra and Shatila, who committed this are the Phalangists, they were not the Israelis. But the Israelis give enough information to this militia to perpetrate this horrible massacre. Of course, there are crimes against humanity which never fade with time. And I think after the dust of the conflict would be cleared, you will find a lot, as you said, dead between the rubble, and a lot of common dead, and a lot of killing outside the law, and a lot of sagas which would be, revealed. And that's why the ICG insisted in the ruling that Israel should give the ICG the time and the space and the access to the Palestinian territory to assess the situation and to report. After, inshallah, the ceasefire, a lot of facts will be revealed. And in my own opinion, history never dies.
We hope so, sir. We hope so. Let's cross our fingers and to dream even that tomorrow is going to be a better day, and we are going to witness together the stop of the bloodshed. Well, Ambassador Ayman Musharaffa, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you very much for your input, sir, and have a very good day. You know, there are secrets in Gaza. There are people who know that they were born to resist and to stay on their own territories. You would find a very tiny little girl with severe injuries, very weak, but she is just having this sign to say to the whole world that we are going to remain here, and at last, or by the end of the story, we are going to win, and we are going once again to regain our country, to have our independent Palestinian state with Al-Quds as its capital on the borders of 1967, inshallah. Well, by this we come to the end of our first segment. After the short break, we are going to return back with more, so stay tuned.